Well, hello! I'm neck deep in projects on my new boat, but I've got some exciting news about the Antares. I'll give you a tour of my new boat and tell you all the projects that I've got going on with it.
Set your spirit free. Chase the sunshine, feel the breeze. This is the life, it's all I need. Come stay with me.
Hey, it's future me. So I've been living on my new boat for about, I think maybe 2.5 months now. So I've filmed a lot of stuff. I just haven't been able to get a video out of all the work I've been doing on it. So hopefully I can start doing that with this video that'll hopefully release in a day or two. But I wanted to give you a tour of the boat because I kind of left everybody hanging in the last episode because the boat wasn't mine yet. I also wanted to give you an update on the Antares boat that I was working on. And the great news is, not only is the boat going to get finished, it's going to get finished with a better job than I would have done. So if any of you follow Sail Life, I know a lot of you do, Mads, and welcome to the people that have joined my channel from watching Sail Life. You'll know that we're in the process of selling him the boat. So as soon as the paperwork goes through, it's kind of got messed up documentation. As soon as we get that sorted out, he'll be buying the boat and working on it. So I'm excited about that. And I'm sure I'll be back down in Florida with my new boat, and I'm sure I'll give him a hand if he can stand me. Well, enough talking. Let's get down to the boat tour. So this is a 2000 Catana 401, formerly known as Alley Cat, has now been renamed to Sunshine. Sunshine is the new name of my boat. So we've got a high field dinghy with a fairly new outboard, although it's pretty small, and it's a bit of a mess because I've got projects going on. For example, here's the new water tank that doesn't belong in the cockpit. It's got a nice large cockpit, I mean, compared to a monohull. I've got a small 12-volt solar array here. Love them or hate them. It's got the dual outboard helm stations, so you can sail with the wind in your hair. Here, one of the most important things for people that work from your boat, Starlink. Up here on the hard top, I've also upgraded with new solar panels for my 24-volt system. I've got videos that I'm going to show you all about that. Moving forward, I've got you've got the trampoline. I've got my kite out here drying from kiteboarding the other day. Got some cool videos I'll show you of that. And then this thing here, this beanbag's amazing up here. So that's one of our favorite spots. The previous owner told me it's the best thing ever on the boat, and it really is. Bow sprint, a couple spinnakers, I think an Code Zero, ASIM, and a symmetrical. I haven't had those sails out at all. I've sailed a couple times just with the Genoa and the mainsail. Then we've got the dagger boards on both sides. Here again, hate them or love them, but it's going to be nice when I can get in 2.5 foot of water. Going into the inside, I currently have my computer set up here for my working during the day. A desk here, and I originally thought I would use this for my office, but I don't see that really happening. I love having these windows here. It's got great ventilation. On this side is the fridge. And then a lot of the control panels and stuff, most of which have been disabled, are over on this side as I replaced electronics. I think it's a really horrible place to put it because it's like this ends up piling stuff and you can't really get to your switches. So I'm probably going to move those. This is the other thing that's not that great is these shelves. Though super convenient and handy, they just end up collecting junk. Then into the kitchen, garbage here, which is great. The sink. This is part of my, you'll see all my half-finished projects that I'll have on future videos. This is for the water maker discharge. So I've got the new water maker. I had to install a new water maker. I've got the controls here. There'll be a video coming on that. The other thing that I installed is my dishwasher. Yes, I have a dishwasher on my boat. Now, I'm not a very tall person, just a little over 5 foot. I don't know, 5'4", 5'5", something like that. And this boat fits me perfect. I pretty much don't bump my head, but yeah, if you're much taller than that, this is not the boat for you. But I absolutely love it. And that's a trade-off, right? Because the lower the headroom, the more efficient the boat is. And I tell you, this boat sails. Down the stairs, you've got a small head there. lots of storage cupboards that come up in the front here. And this is actually an office. We've got a freezer, huge freezer up here, and then a desk which has kind of collected a lot of construction supplies at the moment. But this is actually probably, I'll use this as a real office, put in a real office chair here and the monitor here because it stays really cool. Escape hatch is open. You just have tons of ventilation through here. It's super nice. And then in the back, which is also more cupboards and storage, which is actually a lot of access that I've got all the liners from the headliners and everything pulled out because I'm doing so much changes to things and a lot of storage supplies. I can put this down and clean this up a little bit and have this bedroom ready. And hopefully my daughter will come visit soon. Going back across, back through the salon. Got my one wheel here. This has been a major lifesaver as far as transportation because even though I do have my car here, it's usually parked a long ways away to get free parking. And so I take that back and forth. I put tons of miles on that thing. I love it. Coming back through here, this is the master stateroom side. And it's kind of a, well, the whole boat, you have to imagine it's kind of a bit of a bachelor pad right now. So this is my my bed in my bedroom. Then going down this way, you've got dressing room with, you know, all your storage for everything. Going forward is the bathroom, and though it's kind of a wet head, it is separated here. And they didn't put the shower in the front because I don't think there would be headroom in the front for the shower. But I found it doesn't bother me too much, especially because there's so much ventilation here. Here with this escape hatch, you open it up and it just ventilates the boat really well. The timeline for buying the boat was I had flown up to take a look at the boat initially, made an offer, they didn't accept it. I flew back. A couple weeks later, they counter-offered and we came up with a price that worked for both of us. And then I flew up a second time, did a full inspection of the boat, looked at everything and found some problems. I knew there was a lot of issues with the boat, but that's what I was expecting. And did I pay too much for it? Oh, maybe. It's hard to say, but it was the boat I wanted, right? I fell in love with the Catana 401. I really liked I found one in Florida. I really liked it, but it was just way out of my price range. This one was actually in my price range. And I know it was going to take probably $50,000 to bring it up to the same level as the other boat. But then I can kind of make it my own. And then, of course, I always know that I've got new stuff on it. So that's exciting. I loaded up my car with everything that I thought I possibly could need for the boat. Tools, plus my clothes, plus my kite gear, everything that I could possibly need for this whole summer, and drove it the 1,200 miles. Now, keep in mind, I had just bought this car because I had to sell my other one. So I just bought this car like a week before I left on this 1,200 mile trip. My little car made it. 1,200 miles. First 1,200 miles I put on. Yeah, the car is packed pretty darn full. Every square inch. I was gonna get a trailer, but I made it all fit. So I just picked up a storage unit. I can't believe I fit all this stuff into that little car. Just rented this thing here. See if we can get it cleaned up. I heard that pressure washing fiberglass isn't that great. It drives stuff into the dirt into the glass, but the previous owner said this is what he always does, so I'm sure it couldn't hurt. Let's get this boat cleaned up. It's kind of like moving into a house and trying to remodel it at the same time. A bunch of stuff I've got to fix. Changing the oil impellers, fixing the steering leak, replacing the fire extinguishers and flares, new hoses in the engine compartment. I've got some cracked hoses there. I want to get a new anchor. I need to fix the water pumps. They keep staying on all the time. And eventually get the water maker going. And that's just the list of fix. And then here is the list of like modifications that I need to do. Well, this got some fixes on it too. Okay, safety first. This is the propane setup. It's got a solenoid, but this hose is looking a little suspect. It's pretty brittle. I just gave it a good tug and pulled it right off. There it is. Down here, this looks a little, so it's not going to seem very tight. Open this up, let's drill a hole. Well, there we go, that's looking a little bit cleaner. So the propane line has to come through this hole I drilled. Put that PVC there, drill a hole there, put this through on this side. What got me started with this whole thing is because when I turned the propane on, I could smell a little bit of propane here. And so these gauges, people think they're fuel gauges, but they're not. They're just to check the leak. So I can turn on the propane, and I turn it off right away. And if it drops down, it means it's leaking. And so this solenoid here is shut off, and that has a switch on the inside that basically you only turn on when you're cooking. And so that way, if there's any leak, it's only going to leak into this compartment, which should be vented to the outside. So I mixed up a little solution of soap and water, and I'm putting on this thing, and I just don't see where it's leaking. From here down, it's new hose, and this is how you're supposed to do it now, is it goes into this airtight. I've got to bolt that piece on there, screw it on there, but it goes through this airtight gland, and so you tighten this up and it'll clamps down on this. And so this is a continuous hose that goes from here right into the stove, which is just on the other side of that wall. I found it. It's a bad regulator. So you can see it, that's the vent off the regular side. It's just blowing bubbles. So got a bad regulator. It's always so much easier to do stuff when you're on the dock, and I had a couple days on the dock to get things sorted out, fix the propane leak, make sure the water works. The previous owner helped me drive the boat out to the mooring to put it on there, and they hadn't put the bridle on the mooring yet, and so we couldn't hook up to that. We came up and went onto a temporary mooring, and now they put the bridle on. The question is, out here, wind blowing, do I dare take the boat, drive it on my own, and try to pick up a mooring buoy? I used to do it all the time for my boat in Hawaii. I'd go pick up the mooring buoy in the dark, on my own, through a narrow channel, no problem. But you know, it's just a new boat, just not used to everything, don't know how everything's gonna work. I don't know. I think I just need to go for it. Yeah, just like riding a bike, you don't forget. I got it, one hook on. All right, let me adjust it so I can get some slack off and get the other. You can see on the ceiling where they put these panels in and caulked them, it's just all moldy. And you can't clean the mold off of caulk, it absorbs into it. So I gotta recalk it. And part of the cleaning of the boat is, you know, you always want to clean from the top down. And so if I clean the whole boat and then I strip all this caulk out, it's going to make a big mess. I'm going to have to clean it all again. So I'm kind of starting on that, even though it's probably not a priority. I manage to make a bigger mess of everything in here, including myself. That's why I wanted to get this stuff on the top done first. Even without caulk, it looks a lot better having the mold gone. So I'll eventually caulk it up. Now I can clean the rest of the cabin and be okay with it because I won't have to clean it again. Well, I'll have to clean it again, but not soon. Well, here I am taking the boat out for the first time, officially, on my own. Yeah, I don't know that the boat was really ready, or me, but you just gotta go and get the feel for it. I just took it out just to kind of get used to things. It wasn't going anywhere. Motored out most of the way. The wind kind of picked up a little bit once I got out of the harbor, so I put the jib up, sailed back and forth, and rolled it back in, and just motoring back in now. The main thing is, you know, I know how to sail. I'm pretty comfortable sailing. I want to be comfortable maneuvering this boat, knowing how it works, knowing how the shifters work, kind of getting a feel for the area. I installed new instruments. I got my new GPS. I'm a big fan of always having a GPS at the helm when you're navigating through harbors and stuff, just knowing where everything is. I put a new autopilot on it, and I haven't calibrated it yet, but it sort of works. But, good enough. This boat tracks amazingly well. Like, well, I mean, there's no waves, so, but even a monohull with my model would never track like this. You could never let go of the wheel. It's the hydraulic steering. Well, what do I think after 2.5 months? Well, I got two things to talk about on that. One is, do I like living aboard? Do I like living on a boat? And I have to say, yeah, I really enjoy it. There's a lot of things that are tougher, but there's a lot of things that are a lot nicer. I lived in an RV for a while. I've lived in houses, big houses, little houses, on the water, off the water, and I can say I really enjoy living on a boat, and I think it will probably be a fairly long-term thing, at least for a few years, that I'll be living on the boat. So the other question is, what do I think of the boat that I bought? Well, I knew it wasn't in very good shape. But I went in that knowing that, I mean, it's the boat I wanted for the price, in the price range that I wanted. And so knowing I had to replace it. And there are some advantages of replacing this stuff, of getting the boat at the price that I can afford to put a new water maker on it. I can afford to put the new air conditioning system in. I can afford to put new electronics in. It has a huge advantage. You have new stuff. Otherwise, if you pay a little bit more for the boat and you get a boat that someone's already upgraded 3 years ago, 5 years ago, you end up with stuff that still works, but it's old. I don't know, I'm excited about it, and I like doing the boat projects, and I like making it just my way, and I've done some pretty creative stuff, I think, that's going to turn out really well and make the boat really comfortable. I'm very conscious on this boat with weight, because it is a performance cruiser, and the sailing performance that I've got out of this in the few times that I've had sailing is amazing. And one of the things is, people say, I want a fast boat, I want a fast boat. Well, you don't want a fast boat to go fast, because the thing is, waterline makes all the difference. If you want to go fast, if you want high speed, 12 knots, 14 knots on a regular basis, you need a big boat. You need a 60, 70 foot boat, right? Waterline makes the bigger difference. A 50-foot boat is always 50-foot Catamaran downwind is going to be faster than a 40-footer. So there's no waterline makes a bigger difference than anything. But what I like is I'm sailing in 10 knots of wind and I'm doing 7 knots. To me, that's just amazing. I've been on boats that they say, no, we don't even put the sails up till 15 knots. And so I love being able to sail in 7 knots, 10 knots of wind and be able to get, 70% of wind speed. That's amazing, especially if you bring it up and bring your apparent wind up. Now, of course, it's not going to be every wind angle and big waves. That's not going to happen and things like that. But the boat sails really nice. And a part of that is because this boat is very low profile. When you're sailing, to get speed out of your boat, what you're fighting is your lift versus your drag ratio. And your lift is going to come from your sails. And they also come from your underwater appendages too, because they give you lift upwind, if you will. And so those two things versus the drag. And the drag comes from two things. Number one, your underwater appendages. So if you've got long keels, as opposed to high aspect dagger boards, there's a lot more drag. Also, the more weight you are, there's a lot more drag because there's a lot more surface, not more water you have to move. But then the other thing is, if you've got this huge windage area, you've got tall ceilings, you've got a fly bridge, you're way the heck up there, there's all this windage that you have, and that affects you at anchor. It affects you when you're sailing, especially in those light winds. And then it affects you in the heavy winds, because you get in the heavy winds. I've seen videos where people are like, oh yeah, it just got too windy and we couldn't make it upwind. Well, that's because they've got such a high drag ratio, because their cabin and everything is so big that they can't get the boat to even go upwind because they don't have enough lift ratio against that drag. And so there is nothing better than having a low drag cabin and hull structure. And it's a trade-off. If you're a tall person, it doesn't work. But for me, I love this boat. I absolutely love it. And so it's a pain, all the stuff that you're going to see that's happened, everything from my windlass breaking, my water tanks need to be replaced, my engine problems, just the list, electrical problems, inverter problems. The list goes on and on and on of all these things that are wrong. But I like working on the boat, and so for me, and I love the boat. So we're going to make it into something awesome.